Tony D and Little Joan off camera, and this is a screenwriter's rant on You Hurt My Feelings, a movie starring Julia Louise-Dreyfuss as a writer who's married to a psychiatrist, and they get into a squabble. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys books, 1 through 11. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget Kindle. Excuse me, unlimited is free. I got the hiccups. Anyhow, I'll be at the Ocean City Comic Con in Ocean City, New Jersey at the Music Pier from 10 to 4 today, Sunday, March 26th. Stop by if you can. So, I'm not exactly even sure what happens in this movie, but apparently they're a couple, a very Manhattan-y couple. David Cross is in it as the funny guy. And so they're getting along great. And then one day she is meeting, her and her friend are meeting their husbands up somewhere. And the husbands are talking privately. And Julia overhears something negative about herself, or some way that he feels that he never told her, and it's like devastating towards her because he lied, and now like she can't forgive him, and that's why it's called You Hurt My Feelings. It's supposed to be funny, but I didn't find it very funny. I mean, it's dramatic. It's not like overly dramatic. It's sort of like quirky Manhattanite drama. But it's kind of hard to relate to, I think, because I don't feel like I don't feel the two characters, the two leads here, are they're not average New Yorkers in my view. I guess they are in some ways. They're average Manhattanites because they're both super professional and well off. Right? I mean, she's like a working writer who lives in Manhattan. They imply she makes a pretty good living, like she's a semi-famous writer at least. He's a psychiatrist or a marriage counselor, because David Cross and his wife are one of his patients. And so, I mean, their life seems pretty good overall. And then, this one minor thing, sure, I could see how it could disrupt a relationship or a marriage, because you're with somebody for a long time and you find out how they really feel about something. Maybe they've been lying about it. Sounds like he's kind of telling her a white lie. But, like, it's not very relatable, right? It doesn't feel very relatable. It feels very much like a first world problem. Like first world people having first world problems. I mean, in the plus column, at least they're still married. I don't think they get divorced over it. I think it's sort of meant to be kind of like a Woody Allen type movie, but the thing about Woody Allen, when he did a movie that took place in Manhattan, that was a different era, and you got the sense that, yeah, Woody lived in Manhattan, but he wasn't living a fabulous life. He was, maybe he was he wasn't a blue collar guy, but he felt like he belonged there and didn't feel like he was living above a lot of other people, whereas this movie feels very much like, well, these people are rich. Like, I guess if Woody shot a movie now where he played a guy who lived in Manhattan and he was a comedy writer, you might think, But even so, like, I never got the impression that his character was well off. I get the impression that both these characters are very well off. And that kind of, it's not that I don't like them, but it puts them in a different context. Yeah, they have a problem, but they can also afford like marriage counseling. I mean, he's a marriage counselor. So I'm sure they'd get a good rate on top of everything else. And so it doesn't, like, I can't relate to it. I just can't relate to it, you know? I mean, I used to be married, so I could relate to some of it, I guess. And like, this scene isn't very funny. Like, David Cross is kind of funny, but very mild, like a very mild, funny moment there. And Julia Louise-Dreyfuss isn't really bringing it, you know? Like, I keep comparing it to Woody Allen, and maybe that's unfair, but like, he was really funny, even when he was neurotic and wrapped up in his moment. And okay, these are different characters. They're not doing it quite the same, but it's it kind of makes it a lot less exciting. You know, you're not going for the laughs. It feels like you're just, oh, it feels like I should be able to relate to it. I can't. If they were a little lower on the totem pole, maybe struggling, and then they had this problem, that would feel a little more real to me. Because it would be like, oh man, you know, that to me feels more real. That you're already kind of struggling in Manhattan, let's say, and on top of everything else, you know, you got a relationship problem to deal with. But you know, it feels like two rich people. Maybe these two rich people will get divorced. She'll get half his money and live in a different apartment in Manhattan, still raking in the dough on her books. You know it, and that's not. You know, I'm not wishing that even on a character, but it just doesn't feel. It just doesn't have the impact of, say, if it was, I don't know, a restaurant manager and a guy who worked for the city fixing, I don't know, electric telephone poles or whatever. Like, then there'd be a lot more at stake, right? Because maybe they're just barely keeping their head above water, even living in Manhattan or just outside, and now they're going to get divorced. That's really going to disrupt their life. So I guess the stakes aren't high enough for me. And it's just not funny. I didn't laugh. You Hurt My Feelings, not exactly a comedy tour de force of a title. And the moment when they give you that line, it feels very muddled. Like, if that's the whole crux of the movie, give me the whole line very clearly so I can hear what he said. So before I read the write-up, first act, they're this couple, they're married. He says nice things about her. He's supportive. She's supportive of him. Second act, she overhears a conversation. Turns out he lied about his support. And in a moment of frustration, he tells his male friend something. She is devastated, and it becomes a whole thing. That then their relationship's on the rock. She's mad at him. Their son is trying to get them to resolve their issues or trying to help in some way. Eventually, they resolve their issue. I'm going to guess in the third act, after a lot of scenes of coffee shops and going to art galleries. All right, let me read the write-up. From writer-director Nicole Holofcener, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfuss, Tobias Menzies, Michael Watkins, Arian Moayed, Amber Tamblyn, and David Cross. Amber Tamblyn, David Cross, the only other two names I recognize other than Julia Louis-Dreyfuss. You Hurt My Feelings, coming soon. Director, and writer Nicole Holofcener. No synopsis. Yeah, see, that's not good either. I mean, you gave me all this information about who's in it, all these links, and not one line. And in fact, you've got Coming Soon, Beau is Afraid, and Past Lives. You're pimping other movies inside this movie. You didn't even give me the write up. That's weird. Okay. And David Cross can be funny, but you know, it just feels like everybody's being neurotic and the funny part's not there. Like again, I keep going back to Woody Allen, but that's who it reminds me of. Woody Allen's doing neurotic. He'd do a whole bit. I mean, give me a bit. Give me at least one bit. You know, one zinger of a sarcastic line. So, like, David Cross is, you know, sitting on the couch complaining that his wife's feeding him salads because he's fat and he doesn't want to be fat or whatever. You know, give us a comedy line, David. Like, you know, what am I? What am I? A cow? Something, anything. I'm reaching, but like, you know what I mean? Like a zinger, something. Spice it up a little bit. If it's supposed to be a comedy, is it not a comedy? I guess it's a dramedy. God, I hate dramedies. You know, I mean, here she overhears her husband, then goes outside. I think I'm gonna throw up, and then her friend says, "Oh, don't throw up here." And then she says, "Okay, I can't," or something like that. And it's like, that's it. I mean, and then, you know, she's crying and she's upset, and then she asks her friend, you know, what do you tell your husband, who's an actor, when he has a bad show? And then they cut to a scene and she tells him he's great. I mean, what else do you say to a spouse? Yeah. Does this character honestly believe, you know, your husband should tell you when you look fat in a dress? I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know. It just seems like a mountain out of a molehill, some kind of situation, and it's just not, you know. Nobody expects like actual real life in a movie unless it's a drama. If it's meant to be a comedy, then give us some one-liners here. And Julia Louise-Dreyfuss certainly has a capability to deliver them and be dramatic too. So, I don't know. This falls flat for me. Yeah. Called You Hurt My Feelings. Maybe they didn't put the funny stuff in here. I don't know. Meh is what I would say to this movie. I probably wouldn't say it. You know, again, it's another comedic actress who's very funny. I mean, I like Julia Louise-Dreyfuss. I don't like her politics, but you know, I've seen her in stuff where she's very funny, and I get it. She wants to branch out. All right, then just make it a drama. Just make it a drama. Be a perfectly fine drama, I guess. You know? Again, it seems just very low stakes, though. So that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for more base takes later. And later, we'll be doing a live stream. If you're seeing this on Sunday, March 26th, I'm currently at Ocean City Comic Con at the Music Pier. So come on by. The weather's going to be nice today, I believe. And we'll see you tomorrow.